I'm Georgina Hall, and this is the Female Empowered Podcast, inspired by the casual conversations I've had with thousands of women over my career in coaching. This is not just another wanky women's wellness podcast. We are bringing the uprising. Hi friends, welcome to the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host Georgina Hall, personal trainer, online coach and offerer of opinions. And today's episode I am talking to Silvia Carswell, who is a counsellor, and she is the other half of TY therapy courses. You met the first half when you heard my brother speak about relationships in the last episode. So is this the better half, Silvia?
Well, I don't want to stereotype the genders here, so the other half is perfectly fine.
Is it only women who get called the better half, or sometimes the men get called the better half?
What do you think? I actually think it's usually women, isn't it? It kind of became attached to women a lot of the time.
Well, my basis for calling you the better half of TY therapies is purely because my brother is the other half. So it's more of a sibling thing than a gender thing.
Okay, that makes more sense, of course. So if it comes with a little hashtag, it's probably a little bit better because, like with anything else, we go into making an assumption, don't we? And
yeah, I guess we do.
Most of the time we kind of hear the better half being associated with a woman in the relationship. So yeah.
Well, there's both in my relationship are women.
Yeah, that's true. And, so it's very different for you.
And who would be the better half in that one, Silvia?
I have no idea, Georgina. Probably depending on which one of you I'm talking to.
Yeah. That'll be it. And this might come up today in what we're going to talk about, mightn't it? These gender roles. I'm going to let you introduce the subject because it's something that you deal with every day. But what I am going to say before we start talking is that I think that everybody will be able to take something away from this, whether man, whether woman, whether mother, child, or friend of mother, child.
Exactly. Dad. Whether you're planning having children, not planning having children, whether you have children, whether you know anyone who has children, I think this will be helpful for absolutely anyone, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So set us up, Silvia. What are we talking about today?
Sure. So we're talking about moms. Most of the time, I suppose this topic kind of came up for me because it's something that I come across very often. I would say daily, to be fair, in conversations with my clients, especially kind of since the first lockdown started, to be fair, because the struggles, I suppose, became more prominent with the lack of childcare and the reduced amount of support that women are getting right now. And many women are assuming this role of having to manage absolutely everything, having to tackle everything that's thrown at them, whether it's childcare, whether it's education, whether it's doing their job at the same time, household, etc., etc. Anything you can think of, you can throw into that box. And so this subject became something that I feel actually really passionate about, and I suppose the bottom line I want to talk about here is to give every woman a permission to be who they are, to take their time, to have their space, etc., etc. Yeah.
Yes, Silvia. This is the whole point of the podcast, every episode. Yeah. So this is perfect. This is great that we're going to talk about this together. 100%. I think it's something that a lot of my clients have also struggled with. Trying to juggle things in lockdown. A lot of my clients are mums. They're working from home. They're homeschooling, or they at least were in the first lockdown. They're trying to fit in an exercise program, and they're trying to keep their relationship going and see friends and family and raise children. They've got it all going on.
Exactly. And yeah, the way we look is thrown into that bucket as well. Can't become fat. You have to eat healthy, you have to exercise, you have to do all of this. Like it's this huge thing that becomes impossible after a while. And kind of many women just reach their boundary.
It is unreal, I think. And one of my friends said during the first lockdown, this stuck out for me. I just messaged her saying, how are you getting on? She was working from home. She had 2 kids at home to homeschool, and her husband's working from home as well. So they're just all in the house all the time. And I texted her, how are you getting on? She said, I just feel like I'm a really shit mum. I'm a really shit wife. I'm a really shit teacher, and I'm a really shit employee, because everything is just getting done half-assed, because she's like trying to water and trying to do all of the things.
Exactly. And it's nearly impossible to keep all those plates spinning. Isn't it? Like something does need to kind of take a priority. Sometimes something needs to be dropped, etc., etc. But it's difficult to kind of to prioritize and to find what is it that you choose to, and then how do you feel about it if you choose to drop something?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, because I was saying yesterday to my girlfriend, actually, we went for a walk and we took about 2.5 hours to do, it was something like 15,000 steps. And I went, do you know what? If I had a proper full-time 9 to 5 job and a child, I would never have time to do these steps and train and drink enough water and like, do you know what I mean? How do people have the time of the day? I can't do it for myself. So I honestly have no idea how mums, people with families, get all of the things done in a day.
Yeah, that's so true. And of course, I have got lots of friends that are mums, and I hear that on a daily basis, and the expectations that they put on themselves are unbelievable.
Now, do you think that it is a mum thing, a woman thing? Do you think that men experience the same thing, or do you think it's a societal thing? Do you think that we don't have the same kind of pressures on men as fathers to, even if they're single fathers, to kind of juggle all these plates in the same way that we do for women?
Well, many, I think, have got different expectations on them from the society, from the culture. But of course, the expectations come from different places, don't they? So we have the cultural ones, we have the society, we have also the family unit itself, the relationship between the partners, whether it's, it doesn't matter whether it's man or woman, whether it's same-sex couple, it doesn't actually matter. And then the expectations of the family that they grew up in as well, and what was modeled for them. So you have all these jumble of expectations that come from different places. Whether it's male, female expectations. Well, men have got, if we were to stereotype, men have got lots of expectations about being the breadwinner, providing for the family, being the strong one, etc., etc. So I think they're dealing with something slightly different than a woman. Women usually we attach that the childcare, the household, etc., etc., which is gradually changing already, which is absolutely brilliant. But it's still there. The undercurrent is still there, because if you imagine that the expectations and the cultural thing, this is almost like given from one woman to the next through generations.
Yeah.
So even if you think about yourself, you can maybe pick out a little expectations that you have of yourself that you maybe are carrying from your grandparents or even great grandparents. And so, yeah, they're different. I'm very much about equality, but still we're different. We're different genders, and there's no way around it.
And we have been conditioned differently, of course, like you say. And I think probably with those conditionings come different feelings in the aftermath. So for instance, maybe a female, you can probably tell me if this is something that you do find is true. in your line of work, maybe a mum, maybe a female experiences more guilt than a male parent?
Yes, there was actually some research being done about guilt, and it's been proven that women experience more guilt than men in general.
In general, that's interesting.
In general, this is not just about motherhood, and it's just not about children, etc., but it's in general. And you know, guilt is really, really tricky to navigate anyway. It comes from the values that we put on ourselves or we adopt from others. Yeah.
So how can we manage that guilt? What would your advice be for someone experiencing mum guilt? Someone who's thinking that they're not being a great parent because they're working from home and they've got all these other roles and responsibilities to take care of as well.
Sure. So you're talking about the unhealthy guilt, really, because, you have got the healthy amount to every single feeling as well. So, if you think about guilt itself, sometimes it, prevents us from doing things that we would perhaps regret later, like, let's say, it's about us going against our values. So let's say about lying or stealing, or, you can take it into really basic thing, and that's actually quite healthy guilt. But the mom's guilt, it tips over to the unhealthy guilt. It's the expectations, the values that we adopt from the cultural expectations. So I think to challenge that, I would be thinking about, doing a reality check there, looking at the expectations itself themselves that we put on ourselves. Are these expectations realistic in the first place? Or is this something really unachievable that I'm trying to put on myself and drive myself crazy trying to achieve this right now?
Yeah, and that could go with all things, couldn't it? Like that could be if you're trying to follow a diet right now, is it the right time? Do you need to feel guilty if you can't manage your own expectations? What do we do in those instances? Is it a case of writing down our values or our goals or our priorities? What would you say?
Yeah, I would be concentrating on those values, because that's what then brings up the guilt if we go against them. So write down the values and really look at them and ask yourself, are these my values? Or are these actually my mother's values or my grandmother's values? Or, is it cultural values that I'm adopting? So really unpick them and think about, is this actually something I want to follow? Ask yourself that question. Is this actually important to me, or is this important to someone else?
Yeah.
And then in this process, we kind of disregard everything that we are already doing. We ignore all that and we just concentrate on everything that we are not doing or not doing right. So look for evidence that shows you that you're already, fulfilling the expectations or the values that you give yourself. And
that's one thing that I picked up from the message that you sent me about this subject actually, is people not giving themselves enough credit for the fact that they are raising a child. Their child is happy, their child is healthy, their child has a roof over its head, it's got clothes, it's got food. These are all tick boxes. But just because you can't take your kid to the cinema right now, or your kid can't see its grandparents right now, there are still other things that you are doing. You are keeping those plates spinning.
Definitely. And we really need to look at the basics, and we don't kind of pause and appreciate the basics that the children are getting. They're having sleep, they have, as you said, roof over their head, they're fed, etc., etc. These are really important.
Yeah.
When you look back at your childhood, what do you look at? I felt safe and cozy. I had a little memories about conversations, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's what brings value.
And I think probably kids are actually having the whale of a time, having their parents at home and spending more time together. And not being taken to the cinema or the arcade or wherever because they're having actual family time now. And those are the things that you remember from being a kid.
Oh, definitely. That's what I remember anyway. I remember the nature, the adventures in the nature, that kind of thing, more than anything else, more than what I've had or, obviously there weren't iPhones back then,
Yeah, no.
but the
I'm so
equivalent.
glad. I'm so glad
Yeah,
that
me
I
too.
didn't grow
Me
up with a
too.
phone. I would have missed half my life. I missed half my life. I'm like, where did those 2 hours go? Oh, that's right. They were in a rabbit hole on Instagram.
Yes, we didn't have that, which is absolutely brilliant.
So can I ask you some questions from my clients that you'll be able to...
Of course, of course.
Just along these lines, you might be able to help some people here, hopefully. Here's one from a good friend of mine, actually. She says, I have a job where I travel. People often ask me about my kids and who looks after them. No one says that to my male colleagues. What can you do to change people's perceptions of a woman in a predominantly male-orientated business?
That's such a good question. And this is such a classic cultural expectation, isn't it? The woman is responsible for the care of her children. There's, no one else is. That's her pure job.
Yeah.
And actually, well done to your friend, because she is already doing it. She is already challenging that expectations by having the job she has.
Yeah.
Doesn't she? So well done in the first place. And
the kids are at home with her husband. They're fine. He's fine.
Of course
Everyone's
they are.
fine.
Of course they are.
And if the shoe was on the other foot, yeah, if he was the one that was traveling for work, like no one would bat an eyelid. No one would say anything.
No, exactly. And it didn't even cross my mind to ask, are her children okay?
Yeah. Where have you left them?
On the streets to fend for themselves.
They're fine. They know how to hunt.
Love it. But yes, so the challenge is already there. She's already challenging those expectations by having the job she has, which is brilliant. And, these things are challenged through conversations. And they're not, these are not addressed overnight. Of course, there are. And we just need to really chip away at these expectations and really challenge them as we come across these. But, a really nice way around it could be her asking this same question of the male colleague that's asking her, to kind of encourage them to stop, to pause, to think about what they have asked by having to answer the same question.
I would like to see that, actually.
Yeah, I think that
Who's
would be
looking after
brilliant.
your kids? Well,
yeah, where are they? Are they on the street?
It's funny, actually, because this kind of came up on the relationship episode with Stephen as well. He's I'm being careful how I word this because I don't want to upset anybody either, contrary to popular belief. But when a man looks after their own child, it's not called child minding, it's parenting.
No. Yes. And when a man, is looking after his children while the woman's going to have a, I don't know, class or, whatever she needs to do, he is not helping.
Mm-hmm.
He is parenting.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I hear so much. So probably a little add-on, isn't it, to what Stephen has said there?
Yeah, definitely, and it's become a good thing. Oh, I have our child because like dad's at the gym or whatever. What happens when you go to the gym? Oh, I have to see if my husband can help me.
Yeah, can help me. Yeah. Yeah. Just take it in, yeah. How we look at it and then how we also take it on and how we own it as well. Because we are also using the language that reinforces that belief, don't we?
If you say, oh, my husband helped me, he looked after my little boy. Or whose little boy?
Yes.
Yeah.
our little
Yeah.
boy.
Our
Yeah.
child that we have equally created.
Yes. I couldn't create on my own.
Yes. One might try, Sylvia, but as of yet, not
Yes,
possible.
exactly.
Um, so I don't want to do any man hating because, like, I'm sure there's many
No.
of single male parents as well, who are fighting the good fight and doing their best as well. Is it something that you found the other way around? Very much. Would a man describe it in the same way?
I think the perception is changing, I have to say. So, well, we had a little giggle about the help, etc. But um, this is changing, the view is changing more and more. That's what I hear
Yeah,
from men. So I think, of course, we're on this journey, aren't we? So we're, a part way through that journey. We're not quite there yet.
yeah,
But of
exactly.
course, many men take much more responsibility, and relationships are becoming more and more equal than what they
Yeah,
used to be.
it's
Mhm.
funny, isn't it? Because when we think about how far we've come, like I was
Mhm.
actually just discussing the suffragettes with Stephen Hall.
Oh, uh-huh.
Um, and when you think about how far we've come, Donald Trump, misogyny, all of that, you go, actually, have we come that far? I was talking about Cardi B song, the
Mhm.
WAP song,
Oh yeah.
where it
I do
asks
know that so.
about a moist vagina. That's what it's about.
I always have a giggle when I hear the lyrics. I don't cook, I don't clean.
Yeah, and there's uproar about her singing that song and how vile it is and blah blah blah. And I'm like, but hang on a minute, male rappers have been singing about women's vaginas for a very long time, and no
Yes.
one bats an eyelid or says anything. And then suddenly a woman owns her own, and what? It's slutty and crass and vulgar and all of this. And I think, wow, when
Uh-huh.
Debbie Harry sang Picture This in probably 1970, I'll probably have to fact check that. That's 50 years ago. And this is
Mhm.
basically the same argument.
Yes, it is. And and sorry, I'm still laughing at the don't cook, don't clean. I find it so amusing, Georgina. Um,
Good on her.
and absolutely.
Like, you can get away
um,
with it, hon.
and so yeah, and I think it ties into what I was talking about, the cultural scripting and the
Mm,
cultural expectations, and then how we hand it from generation to generation. But they're still very much ingrained in us, and I think this sounds really bleak, but quite a few generations will need to die for us to make bigger steps than
I didn't
we've
see
done
that word coming. I didn't know
actually.
that's where that was going to go. Quite a few generations need to die. Yeah.
And
Crazy.
move on. I know I'm being really cruel here, but yeah, as you were saying, these kind of, it's so ingrained.
Mm,
When you look at the time, at human beings as we are, and you look at the role of a woman and how many years are we talking. We can't challenge this, and we can't fully change it this in, let's say, I don't know, 100 years. It's not likely to happen, because
mm,
these expectations are so ingrained within us. But what we are not thinking about is that this world is very different. The men are not going out there hunting for food anymore. We're taking that responsibility equally these days, because both partners have jobs, etc. We are providing equally.
yeah.
Hunting in a supermarket.
Yeah, exactly. You hunted in the supermarket. Who does that hunt nowadays? I actually hate going to a supermarket.
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's awful, isn't it? Especially nowadays, it's even worse. I used to hate it before COVID. Now I really can't stand it.
Yeah.
Stress. Can I ask you another question, Sylvia?
Of course.
Can you recommend how to stop comparing yourself? Because there's always a super mum who bakes and crafts, and you're just trying to survive the weekend as best you can. That's what the question
Oh.
says.
Mm-hmm. I really want to find the supermom sometimes. I hear about supermoms all the time. And I'm like, I want to find the supermom and go and slap her
Yeah.
a little.
Where are
But
they in
no,
real life?
there's no supermom out there. There isn't a thing. There isn't a person that's called supermom who is supermom. All mothers are supermoms in
Yeah,
my
I was going to say everybody's own mum is their
like
super mum, isn't it?
they are, and we actually, you know, we're actually looking at someone from distance. We have no idea about, when we are making this comparison, we have no idea about their circumstances. We have no idea about, their job, the support they have available, the responsibilities they have got that are different to ourselves. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much that we don't know about the person that we choose to compare ourselves with.
Yeah.
And that's already, setting ourselves up to fail. And then the fact of the comparison itself, we're always choosing to compare ourselves with someone that appears to be doing much better than us.
It's like
Who
that
is not
social media
likely.
highlight thing, isn't it? Like we comparing
Yeah,
ourselves to people's lives on social media, but we don't know anything that's happening in the other 23 and a half hours of their day that we don't see on social media.
yeah, yeah.
It's all just
And
fairy tales, isn't it?
it is big fairy tales, and it's also about it's still kind of not welcome to talk about the struggle. you know we're talking about, oh, what great things we have done for our kids, we have baked, we have done this, that, the other, but no one talks about the struggle. No one goes on social media and says, my kid's teething and I want to pull my hair out because
Yeah.
I haven't had any sleep. No
Yeah, and that
one.
mum who's done the crafting and the baking on the weekend hasn't told you that she's had a sit down cry shower because she's fighting with her husband, and the baking was a means to forget about that.
Exactly, that's a really nice way of saying it, and that's so true. She relaxed because she baked and she switched off, and that's what happens a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So surviving the weekend with your kids, well done. I
Yeah,
know that can be
you're all
really tricky
right. You're
sometimes.
all
You're all
healthy.
right,
You're all
all
fed.
healthy, you're fed, you're warm. That's perfect, that's enough.
Yeah.
We really need to look at what's enough for us, go back to ourselves and our own values.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, how can you tell someone that you're struggling and ask for help? And I think this comes from someone who's had a new baby, because it goes on to say everyone thinks that having a new baby is such a joy. How do you then say,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I'm really struggling with it?
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing, having a new baby is such a joy. Don't talk about the crappy stuff. Don't talk about the struggle. That's such a cultural norm. It's like it almost goes like, don't never talk badly about someone who's died because something awful is going to happen.
Yeah.
Very, very similar, isn't it? And it's not a joy if you scratch under the surface and if you actually speak to other women. And you don't even need to scratch that much. You just need to ask the question sometimes, because
Yeah.
people don't tend to ask that question. But it is a really hard time, isn't it? Having a newborn. You're not sleeping, you're still sore after the birth. You have went through a bloody hell
Yeah.
to go through that. Your body is recovering, that takes forever, you're in pain.
And that's another psychological and emotional trauma as well, is that your body's changed and it's not what it used to be, and you're kind of having to adjust to yourself in a different way as well. And as somebody who doesn't have kids and has no desire to have them, it does not sound like such a joy to me, Sylvia. It sounds like a nightmare. So I think that probably people do need to lose the guilt about, oh, I've got this bundle of joy. Yes, you have, and yes, practice gratitude, but also be realistic, because there are some crap things that come with that as well. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, I hear this in fitness all the time: bounce back after pregnancy. Like, you don't want to bounce anywhere after you've just given birth. Just give yourself some time, relax, like give yourself some credit for bringing a human being into the world, and for the work that your body has gone through for you.
Exactly, for being alive. And sometimes, with the newborn, it's just about keeping them alive.
Yeah.
That's the main focus, isn't it? But, I think that your client has asked about, how to ask for help, or how to say, that she's struggling. I think the first time she will choose to do it, it's going to feel quite tricky, because it is going against those cultural norms. But I would really encourage her to notice, how does that feel once she chooses to name it, and to notice the response that she's going to get, because she's not likely to get a negative response.
Yeah.
If she chooses to talk to someone, she is likely to get encouragement. She's likely to get love. She's likely to get her needs met. So I would really encourage, for us to notice that if we choose to challenge these beliefs and expectations, and we go against them, and we do something differently, also notice the outcome, because that will reinforce the good that they're doing, the challenge that they are doing, and then the next time it will be much easier.
And that goes for anybody who's struggling with anything, doesn't it? If things are getting too much for you, like the amount of anxiety that's going around at the moment, and overwhelm, if you reach out to someone and say, actually, I'm really struggling with this emotionally, psychologically, whatever, chances are people will want to help you.
Yeah, or sometimes they don't even need to help. Sometimes you just need to listen and make you a cuppa.
Yeah. Sometimes just saying it'll make you feel better, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we said the same thing on the relationship podcast. Stephen said sometimes best thing you can do is if you want to do something, just put the kettle on and then listen. Yeah.
That sounds perfect.
You guys are so aligned. This is an interesting one, Sylvia, and it's something that I experience a lot with clients who are mums. How can you retain your own identity as a human and not just as a mum?
Okay, I like that. Yes. So I would take it down to kind of, we have kind of different roles in our lives. Yeah, we've got the partner, the mom, as ourselves, we've got the employee, whatever it is. And each role that we have in our life needs attention, needs time, needs energy. And of course, you have to divide the resources that you have got available to you with regards to your time and energy. But each role, needs a little feeding, needs a bit of an attention. So are you, with regards to someone's identity as a human being, how much energy, how much attention are you giving to yourself? Are you giving all of you to being a mom, especially having a newborn, for example, or very young children? We can do that. It can almost like consume us, and we forget about ourselves. So it's about noticing the boundary and still having some time for ourselves to do whatever it is that we need to do to feed the identity bit to feed who we are, to feed our needs.
Yeah, and that's the old adage, isn't it, of putting your own oxygen mask on before you help others. So I find a lot, I might get a weight loss client, for example, who I say, what are your hobbies? And they say, well, I take my son to basketball and I take my daughter to football, and I give my husband a lift here, and then I just watch the telly. And I guess that's my hobby. I'm like, okay, maybe we need to get a bit of you back. Maybe the goal isn't actually weight loss. Maybe weight loss is just part of the journey to getting you and your identity back. Because suddenly you're just mum and taxi and wife and supporter and cheerleader and employee.
And of course, all of those roles, in people's lives are really important. And of course, we're not saying don't do that.
Yeah, don't just stop. Don't just put your foot down and go, I'm not doing anything anymore for anyone else.
Although you can give it a try, see how it works.
Yeah. Why not? Try it for one weekend.
Love it. But don't forget about you. You're in the picture as well. You are important. Your needs are important. Your hobbies, interests, your joy, whatever it is that gives you, that nice feeling of fulfillment.
Yeah.
Go for that and make sure that you have got that in your life on a regular basis. That it's not just once in a 6 months kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said for you being happy and the effect that has on the people around you.
For sure. For sure. And that's that's your identity. We kind of, sometimes we also attach our identity to different roles.
Yeah.
So we attach the identity to being a mom or to being having a certain job, certain status, etc., etc. But that's only part of that. Us ourselves as we are, what we like, what we enjoy, what our needs are, also part of our identity.
I think that Eckhart Tolle would say that those things are just ego and they don't actually exist. And we are not our ego, but we are also not our thoughts, but we are also not ourself. So what are we, Silvia? That's a whole other wormhole, isn't it?
It is.
We'll not go down that one today. I haven't got the emotional energy. Another question for you, Silvia. Christmas often gets left to this person as the mum to organise everything. How can we combat that? So how can we combat leaving everything on the mum?
Yeah. So it's the assumed responsibility that we were talking about previously, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, it's my role to do everything for Christmas. Is it?
No, because that man's got to get out there and hunt that turkey.
Is he actually hunting the turkey? He might be away for a week. We might need to rethink that answer now.
And when he comes back, will it be fully plucked?
Yeah, exactly. It should better be.
If he's been away that long, it better be plucked.
Exactly. But
actually, I've gone vegetarian this year, Sylvia, so no turkey for me.
Have you? Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I feel good for it. I feel like I'm on a moral high ground for the environment.
Well done. Well done.
So I'll just have the cranberry sauce this year.
I gave it a couple of weeks, but I was kind of being vegan, and I was naughty at the weekends, but this week I'm off, so I've just gone completely off the rails. But
that's okay sometimes. And I don't think that I don't think everybody needs to be vegan or everybody needs to be vegetarian. I just think that everybody needs to be a little bit better and a little bit more mindful, and that's where mine has come from. Especially if you watch the David Attenborough documentary.
I did, and that made me really rethink a lot.
Yeah, same.
Yes.
In fact, I think I've mentioned the David Attenborough documentary in most podcasts since.
Have you?
Yeah.
Good.
It just comes up all the time in reference to everything. Well, David Attenborough says. I wonder what David Attenborough's perspective on this would be on mums.
Oh, I would definitely trust anything that David Attenborough says, that's for sure.
Me too. I might drop him a message actually about the roles of a mum at Christmas.
Okay. Like it. But going back to that, I don't know if we really answered that question, but
We did not.
Yeah, we did not. Okay. We just went into turkey hunting.
Yeah, we did.
So yeah, have a think about it. Are you assuming the responsibility to provide everything for Christmas? Is it really necessary? Are you actually a single parent, or do you have family, or do you have a partner who can help you out? Oh, see, I used that word. There you go. There it is.
Do you have a partner who could
out.
assume some of their responsibility?
Yeah. Love it. Thank you. See, we just need to catch ourselves as we go along and as we say, because we all do it.
Yeah.
We all do it all the time. So it's about really noticing it. So yeah, do you have a partner that can share this responsibility with you equally? Or, can you negotiate? There's always something to
Can
be
you do the
said
Christmas
about
shopping
negotiation.
together? Especially this year, because probably most of it's going to be done online, right? Rather than going around the shops. So you can definitely do it together when the kids are in bed. You don't even need to have babysitters or anything like that. You could probably get your Christmas food shop online as well.
Mm-hmm.
I do sometimes think that some people make more work for themselves than they need to. I guess it depends on those expectations and what you want, because I'm quite happy. I'm not really into Christmas. I like the basics of it, like having dinner with your family, wearing a Christmas jumper and fairy lights. I'm happy with those things. I'm not bothered about presents and crackers and all of the trimmings. And I think maybe sometimes you need to stop and go, do I need all that? Do I want all that? Is that for someone else or is it for me? Sending Christmas cards was a big one, wasn't it? Like, why do we do that? Just get rid of that shit.
Waste of paper anyway. But
David Attenborough wouldn't like that.
No, for sure. E-cards this year. But are you doing things for Christmas just because the neighbors are doing, or just because the other mums are doing it? What do you actually want this Christmas to look like? How do you want it to feel like? What would you really enjoy? What's important? What's not? What's the priority here?
Yeah.
Maybe that will allow people to rethink that as well.
Yeah, and do we need to make the stuffing from scratch? And do we need to make our own crackers? And do we need to have an at-home Christingle? Is that a thing still?
I have no idea. But everyone's going to be vegan this Christmas, so there'll be no stuffing Georgina anyway.
All I want to do is watch Christmas films. I would have a stuffing sandwich, but I would happily just buy the stuffing.
Fair enough.
I'm not making anything myself, Sylvia. You know me. I'm not taking my trainers out of my oven.
Oh, that's a lie. I have seen your creations on Instagram, and I was really impressed. And you already had Christmas in like March, didn't you?
Yeah, I did Christmas in March, so this is all news to me now. Yeah. I can't bother to get the tree out of the box and put it away again, so I think I'm done for the year. I've peaked. How can you date as a single parent without judgment? Interesting question.
Without judgment. Okay.
Whose judgment?
That was my thought. Whose judgment? You? Who is putting that judgment in the picture? Because your child needs a happy parent.
Yeah.
And if having a nice relationship will make you happy, then there is no reason why not to date. Is there? Where is the judgment coming from? Where is the expectation coming from? Is that about having to give absolutely everything to your child, all your energy, time, resources, and not having any for yourself. Does that come from that belief?
Do you think that's sometimes a defense mechanism as well?
In what way do you think, Georgina?
So, say if somebody is using their child maybe as an excuse not to get back into dating because they're scared of being hurt, or they're living out old relationships or old traumas. So if they say, no, I've got to make little Timmy my main focus, I can't possibly go on a date. Is little Timmy actually just an excuse so that you don't have to put yourself out there?
It might be because, of course, dating is really tricky right now. Probably always was anyway, but there might be a lot of fear attached to dating again or dating after a while. So it is easier to use the little Timmy as an excuse not to go or not to do something that you actually would want to do.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, where's that judgment coming from? Who am I doing it or not doing it for? And what's the fear about?
I read an interesting book actually about single parents dating new partners who have children, and it was about attachment. The book was actually called Love Factually. Again, we talked about attachment styles with Stephen, and it's quite a good thing. It wasn't relevant to me at all, but I did lend it to some friends who are dating and have children, because it's quite an interesting way of navigating a situation, jealousy from a child's perspective, those kind of things.
Yeah, this sounds actually really interesting. I'll need to take a note of it. I haven't read it.
Yeah, do take a note of it. And that brings us really nice and smoothly into your book recommendations, Sylvia. Do you have anything that would be good for women to use for self-development or empowerment, or as parents? Anything that we've covered today, or books that you in general find helpful?
Something I have read quite recently that's about women, more about sex and the expectations and values and I suppose that the kind of the norms that we put on ourselves. That book is called "Come as You Are" by Emily Nagoski.
I've heard of this.
It's absolutely awesome.
Do you know if she's written another book since that? I'm sure I heard her on the Brené Brown podcast, potentially.
Oh, did you?
Could have been Deliciously Ella.
I would be really chuffed if she wrote another book, because I really enjoyed this one.
Tell me her name again, Sylvia.
Emily Nagoski, Nagoski. And the book really, calls out, all the beliefs that we have about sex, all the beliefs that we attach in ourselves. Does she have a name again?
Yes, I knew that I'd heard this somewhere. Emily and her sister Amelia Nagoski were both on the Brené Brown podcast, because I remember her mentioning "Come as You Are," because I thought that's a great title for the book, given the topic. But they have also written a book about burnout and how to complete the stress cycle, which I think would be absolutely perfect for anybody who's struggling with these mum and life roles at the minute, and who need some help from emotional exhaustion.
Yeah, we actually teach the completing the stress cycle on our course as well.
On the TY therapy course?
Yes, we do. And
well, tell us about that, Sylvia. You were going to miss out on this self-promotion. Tell us about the stress cycle and your course, please.
So we're running a course which is called the Ripple Effect. I think the next time we'll run it will be in January, to be fair, because kind of we just want to give everyone space to do their own thing before Christmas and kind of start afresh in a new year. So
That's an
it's
online course though, right?
It's an online course, but it's a live course, which is something that I really love about it, that we still get to interact, we still get to talk live, that it's not just something that you kind of listen to on your own and you don't have that immediate feedback or that conversation. And it's about, we've kind of taken all the techniques and tools that we use with people on daily basis in our sessions, and we have put them together to help people to manage stress, anxiety, feelings low, relationship issues, that kind of thing. So you can check it out. And we are teaching the stress, the closing the stress response cycles as a part of, way of dealing with stress. Maybe we can talk about it at some point.
Yeah, we could do another podcast all about stress and burnout, couldn't we?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any more? Definitely would help a lot of people, especially at this time. Do you have any more books for us? Any more recommendations?
Well, you have mentioned Brené Brown.
She's my spiritual leader.
She's awesome. I love Brené.
Yeah.
Her book, Braving the Wilderness. That's the word I have difficulty pronouncing.
Wilderness is how I would say it, but you're from Slovakia, aren't you, Sylvia?
Yes.
In case anybody's wondering about this Slovakian Glaswegian hybrid accent, that's
keeps changing every day. So Brené is great for talking about anything really, to be fair.
Yeah,
I'm trying to. She's just great.
Just read any and all of her books, because she is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Thanks for talking to us. That's really interesting today.
Great. Thank you for having me, Georgina. I really enjoyed it.
And thank you for helping out all my clients with those questions. And if anybody else has any questions for Sylvia, or you want to go and check out her course, you can find her at TY Therapy Courses on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have any more questions about what we have discussed today, just send us a DM. That's perfectly fine. I'll be able to pick it up.
And tytherapy.com?
tytherapy.com, and Facebook is tytherapy.
Yeah. Cool. I'll link to all of your sites on the show notes as well, so people can come and find you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Georgina.
Thank you, Sylvia. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
If you want to improve your well-being in a non-wanky way, you can join hundreds of other like-minded people in my monthly subscription group for live training sessions, daily workouts, nutrition tips, meditations, and more. Only $10 a month. Email me now, georgina@georginahalltraining.com. Thank you for listening to the Female Empowered podcast. If you want to hear more from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Female Empowered, where you can also get involved with our discussions, and feel free to send us a message.